We were the anti-nuclear capital of the world. I was an autistic kid. My father was a drafted United States Marine, an incredible man. I come from an incredible family. My uncle stood on Omaha Beach on D-Day. I grew up on a huge ranch out by the lake. He was a beautiful, incredible person. He was at Pendleton, combat ready, and they were human guinea pig. They were marched into the trenches in Nevada. They're called atomic veterans. He nearly died at the blast. Between 1951 and 1968, we had 300 open-air tests. Well, as different scientists started to write about this, Wallace Stegner was at the University of Utah at the time. I got to know him. Edward Abbey was hanging around there. I got to know him. I got to know all these environmentalists, and I was an environmentalist. And it was a passionate, intense subject matter there.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. Twingate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. Twingate, 311, whatever you want to call it. I call it Pacific genocide, whatever. It's fucking giant conspiratorial across all demographics. They'll be calling you a radical. May God have mercy on all of your souls.
Nuclear power was evolving. We were promised, oh, this can't happen.
Well, good morning, all you radicals out there. The few, the very few, the teeny spark that's left smoldering out there. We're trying to get a flame burning. We got a lot to talk about today. The UN themselves and propaganda, black and yellow horror media has went right on. Scientific America. Don't you love these titles and names who are the opposite? The UN, the World Health Organization, which is the World I Want to Kill You organization. Cal Berkeley, Eugenics U. This morning, get this. This is the propaganda counteroffensive that UN has launched dramatically this morning because they know everybody's burned out. They've launched it. They've funded. I mean, I know for a fact they spent $10 million this morning in the search engines on this story, which they spent $4 billion after Chernobyl. They have come out with a statement, the UN, saying it is unlikely that cancer rates will increase from Fukushima. First off, let's realize who's saying this. The UN. The UN will tell you that Chernobyl killed 4,400 people when it's killed millions, many of millions. This is the UN. The UN in the 50s was totally 100% captured in the 60s. The UN is the nuclear cartel. The IEA, the International Atomic Energy Commissions, all of the freaking regulatory commissions, every one of them are the nuclear cartel. They are the nuclear cartel. Period. It's undebatable fact. Price Anderson, the Congressional Act, as our Supreme Court, which is not a court. It's a political radical ring, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4, 5-4. It's made it up there. So we have no court systems. We have no revolts. We have nothing. We have war profiteers like Chomsky and Naomi Klein and Chris Hedges and even Cornell. As much as I love Cornell West, war profiteer. Boy, he's drank the Kool-Aid. Him and Bill Maher. I mean, it is outrageous to a person like me who was given 2 months to live post-Fukushima. As we know, the map's coming out that here in Utah we got it. I mean, anybody who's been in Utah, anybody that understands Utah, that lived in Utah, that grew up in Utah, understands that the cancer rates are extreme here. It's like some guy came to me and he says, Kevin, well, what about autism? I'm like, what? You've been following my vlog? Well, people just hear what they want to hear. My PhD was proving autism is nuclear fallout. It's an undebatable fact. You don't have to have a fucking PhD. It is an undebatable fact. To think that Fukushima is pouring to the Pacific Ocean for well over 3 years, day in, day out. Let me tell you something. Fish swim. The marine layer rolls in. I mean, it covers the earth. It's pockets. It is pockets. We know that cancer rates have already spiked dramatically. Here I can prove it to you. I will prove it to you. the Fukushima so-called 50. Remember that propaganda bullshit, the 50 guys that went in originally? Oh, they're going to try to save the world. They tried to run with that story, which the Fukushima 50 was Fukushima thousands, which were homeless guys. The guy who was running it. Now, I used to, in early days, I was the first one reporting this in such a hardcore, dramatic way, you know, that I was getting literally hundreds of emails from Japan daily. You know, cleared it up to September of 26 when they started putting people in jail for talking about it. His mother, somebody who's friends with his mom, sent me an email and says, Kevin, he's going to die. I reported it on my YouTube blog. Everybody went off on me, went crazy. What are you talking about? Well, I says, he's going to pass. His mother told me he's on the verge of death. He's going to die within the next little while. Sure shit, I took so much heat and so much shit for putting that out. Sure shit, he died of cancer. Here comes the UN immediately. The UN comes out immediately. Oh, his cancer death in his esophagus was totally 100% unrelated to Fukushima. Really? Really? The Fukushima 50, there are a couple dozen of them already dead. As Dan told me, the guy who produces this radio show, as we gone on, he says that the whole world should watch The Battle for Chernobyl. Which, by the way, if you've never seen it, The Battle for Chernobyl is one amazing, award-winning, grand documentary. Talks about the 500,000 plus men that entombed Fukushima and the pain and the death they all went through. Look, people say, oh, suicide's killed more than the cancer. No, it hasn't. Suicide's killed a lot. Now you think about it. You're 25th, 30th generational farmer, landowner, fisherman. It's not like the U.S., the baby boomers, the contemporaries, whatever. You know, some of us, I'm seventh generation on the family ranch. We become embedded with, the landscape and the culture is a piece of us. To be taken out, people can understand that, live on family ranches that have evolved, industries that have inherited, whether, especially from the earth, fishing industry, the farming industry, from all these generational, it becomes a piece of you. I'm not talking about corporate welfare farmers, which a lot of these assholes have evolved into. I'm talking the salt of the earth people. Yeah, they're going to commit suicide. When Chernobyl happened, those salt of the earth people wouldn't leave. They said, we know we're going to die. Malta, and they stayed. And they all died. Then now it's being reported, they're letting some people back, and even PBS reports it. And then at the very end of the freaking thing, these evacuees from Fukushima being allowed back in. And the very last line, 357 people have been allowed back in. Out of the 357, from what I understand, less than 100 even went back. You know how many people were evacuated? And let's talk about this. This is how grotesque the American media is and the populace of America. The populace of America is the problem. Who needs them? Who wants them? Well, this is about leaders. The Post-Ignorance Project, this radio show, the people who listen to this are leaders. We are leaders. We don't care about the popular opinion. We don't care about the populace. We don't care. It's not politicians' fault. It's us as a people, but we lack leaders in this country. Think about this. The tsunami itself, not the nuclear meltdown, killed hundreds of thousands of people. Hundreds of thousands of people. That is one, as horrible as 9/11 was, how many people died out of those charges? It was horrible. 3,000? We're talking 300,000 died. That third year anniversary, not a peep, not a word of it from anybody. It's like we just want to, forget it all. And they play ball. Now, as conspiracies go, all conspiracies are not alike. This is a real factual detail. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not. I don't want to get into them. I don't want to get into lead-ups. I don't want to even go there. I talk about the factual details of what happened. A tsunami killed 300,000 people. It was catastrophic. Then the nuclear meltdown. It had pushed into the Pacific Ocean the entire time. And we have gone along with these government-captured agencies, these so-called powers that there be. And it is amazing to me. It is amazing to me how ridiculous and how gone and how cliche and how corky the American populace has become. Now look, I'm not talking, when I go off I go off, I'm talking in the aggregate. I'm surely not talking to the people who listen to this radio show. And it doesn't matter if there's 13 people listening or 13,000 people listening. It doesn't matter. It's about leaders. It's about leaders. There are leaders that are being born and evolved. I see it. You might travel the Post-Ignorance Project. My next stop's San Francisco. Leaders are being born every day. I've seen the change. In the early days of Fukushima, as I report in a dramatical way, yeah, the contemporaries were there. And they're like, I just news cycles went away. I'm going to go back to my, 65-hour-a-week work track. And, we'll go to Chili's and have dinner. And then maybe we'll save up a little money, go to Vegas for 2 weeks and get drunk and go to a strip bar and then come home and say, oh, wow, people are, ooh, 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 ooh. Maybe we can watch some porn on freaking TV at night with another couple. Maybe we could go on a freaking little road trip freaking across the street. Why we work 65 hours a week to go further and further. Let's go refinance our house again for the 80th fucking time, honey. Oh, we love this. This low interest rate stimulates the economy. It's pathetic. It is beyond pathetic. The greatest catastrophe in human history is Fukushima. It's bigger than Chernobyl. Chernobyl, 580,000 men. The original Fukushima, so-called 50, was Fukushima 1,000. I know in factual detail there are thousands of workers dead. Already. We know that cancer rates in factual detail have spiked in North America, including me. I got AML leukemia on day 212, given 2 months to live, the most radical form of leukemia you can have. That's why this story is so compelling. This story is so important. Not because I got leukemia. So many people got leukemia. So many people have got all these freaking illnesses and cancers. And if you don't believe this isn't a cover-up, Barack Obama, Gregory Jackson. Who's Gregory Jackson? Head of the Nuclear Regulatory Committee. What is the Nuclear Regulatory Committee? Class. The Nuclear Regulatory is the government agency like the SEC, like the EPA, that oversees, they're on our side, supposedly on our team, to overwatch the nuclear energy industry in the United States. The IEAA is a grandstand. It's not people think that's the International Atomic, which they are not voted in. They are not. That is Queen's oligarch appointed things. They're not regulators. They never were. They never claimed to be the World Health Organization. They just put that tag and name on. They never claimed to be some kind of voted in freaking whatever freaking regulatory agency. They're not. They hijacked and used that name. They are the cartel. They're the nuclear freaking powers there be. That's who they are. They just use that name. Scientific America magazine, which are really, we want to kill you. It's how they play. And it works. It worked because the American populace, they're working 65 hours a week. How are they going to read a book and understand all this? This is heavy subject matter. So Gregory Jackson, who was appointed, the head of the Nuclear Regulatory Committee by Harry Reid. Harry Reid, the second most powerful man in America. He's the majority leader of the United States Senate, a woman who has a lot of ties here in Utah. He grew up at Yucca Mountain, born and raised there. Yucca Mountain was Timbuktu out there in the desert in Nevada. There was a bunch of brothel trailers. That's all it was. The Mormon missionaries found him when he was 16, 17, 18. He moved here. He worked for ATK here, the military industrialized complex. I think he's a pretty good man in his soul and his heart, but they don't want Yucca Mountain in Las Vegas now. Who would? So he appoints Gregory Jackson to block Yucca Mountain, which by law, Yucca Mountain is a national repository that was dug into the earth. It's built. It's been built for years. But by law, when the nuclear cartel was building up these nuclear reactors, these magic pellets you could put in your car, it's magic, with wands. It's magic when it's not magic. It has nothing to do with magic. It's dirty. It's beyond filthy. It's uranium mines. There's no magic about it. They split an atom and they freaking make contained nuclear bombs inside of a reactor which heats water, which creates steam, which turns a turbine. It's madness. Total insanity. Gregory Jackson was appointed to block Yucca Mountain. There's no answer for the waste. They were told back then, everybody just oh yeah, science is moving so far. We'll get it. Don't worry about it, you anti-nuclear. You're all crazy. Don't worry. Nuclear meltdown? Oh, that's impossible. Can't happen. Won't happen. Never will. Don't even bring it up. Why are we bringing up the impossible? Let's see, Chernobyl, Fukushima. So the National Repository has built, by law, the nuclear waste has to go there. Oh, you can't drive it across the landscape of these 104 reactors in the United States. You can't drive it across the landscape. It's too dangerous. You can't put it in a train, which we do all day, every day. I even shot a video of an open truck of Energy Solutions out here in the Utah site, right here in residential neighborhoods. No one cares. Illegal or no, hot waste, giving your children cancer, giving your children autism, giving you cancer, giving your brothers, your sisters, your whole family. Don't care. Don't care. And that's why I think this is the issue that can break cultural boundaries. The Uncle Tom media, the very people who put out this statement oh, the cancer rates will spike. A lot of them are going to get cancer and die. That's just the factual detail. Now let's think about this. The CDC, which is another captured agency, they say themselves, they came out, and their propaganda mouthpiece whores that they are, credibility not needed, CNN reported it, that they are calling the spike up in cancer now and in the future. Over the next 10, 20 years, they are already calling it the cancer pandemic. This is their own words. Then they counter-react and come back out today and say, oh, Fukushima is not going to spike cancer rates. That's like saying the sun will not come up. Cancer rates have already spiked. Right? There was a group right here in Utah. Now we know the mapping over the top of us here. As downwinders, we know the cancer rates here is the highest in the world. The cancer rates in Utah. Why is that never talked about? People say, well, we never hear and Eric Laxar, West 10, the bone marrow transplant center at UCLA. The writers. Yeah, the pedophile baby raper Woody Allen and his like childhood friends. They all grew up. They're all a bunch of pedophile freaks. He runs the medical center. He's the mouthpiece. They own a PR machine in L.A., a pro-nuclear PR machine. That picture you see that shows up in the New York Times, the Washington Post, every time there's a pro-nuclear freaking thing with the green nuclear reactor with butterflies and birds flying out of it, that's their PR machine. So the oncologist world is very hesitant to even, the data we do have, which I have, the proof, the atomic reference data. The 40,000 United States Marines, the 60,000 support Army personnel that were human guinea pig by Teller from Berkeley, eugenics U, who they knew they were going to kill them. They knew that they would die. They cut their tonsils out. My father was one of them. I'm head of the atomic veterans. It's factual detail. They killed them all. They didn't care. They knew they were going to kill them. Still didn't care. We have that data. I have it. I've read it online multiple times. You know, what's out there? They all died. All of them died cancer. All of them. All of them. Now we know that children are getting freaking cancer. Oh, Kevin Blanch. Here in Utah, at about between day 150 and day 250, we got this incredible rash of leukemia right here. People that I grew up with. A giant, all of a sudden we got this giant bubble right here in Utah of AML. AML is a killer from hell. People landing in bone marrow transplant. People that I know, a whole group out there, we landed there. There was a whole group of us. I'm the only one left alive. It is crazy to me. We know in factual detail that the cancer rates in the Ukraine and the Belarus. Well, now I was in the leukemia bone marrow transplant center, in the acute bone marrow transplant center, East 8, LDS. One of the best bone marrow transplant centers in the world. It's not owned by the Mormon Church. It has nothing to do with the Mormon Church. Danish philosophy medicine. People come from all over the world in there. Southern Utah, check full. We know in factual detail that cancer rates spiked on about day 150, 200 all over Utah. Heavily spiked. We know the birth defects spiked. We know this, actually. We know that Chernobyl heart attacks in infants spiked right here. Do they talk about it? No. Because Utah got so burned out on the anti-downwinder fight that they fought their ass off. Everybody fought their ass off, and they couldn't win. And they finally, so they've taken a different angle. God's will, God's will. That's because they feel like they can't fight back because this thing is too big, this thing is too machine, and we've been hijacked and culturally destroyed via politics, via dogmatism. Now, I used to blame politicians like the rest of you. I used to blame the powers there be. I still blame spiritual leaders. I really do blame. I don't blame politicians anymore. I don't. I don't blame Gregory Jacko. I blame the American populace is hypnotized. They're hypnotized from Operation Foxconn, whatever you want to call it, television, radio. I mean, you listen to Sean Hannity for 4 hours a day. You listen to Bill O'Reilly for 4 hours a day. You listen to Glenn, I mean, you're hypnotized with dogma, ignorance. You know, you listen to any of them, MSNBC, all of them, CNN. You're hypnotized. You're hypnotized into this world that is not reality. It is not reality. Gregory Jacko, head of the NRC, was called to the Hill right after Fukushima happened. There were congressional hearings. They're in the Situation Room. It was a big deal inside that situation room. It's been widely reported how it, well, not widely reported, it's been reported by me, the ex-Washington Post reporter who obviously was working for the propaganda machine, who released it, and then he backed right off on September 26th of 2012. That the fight that went on inside the situation. Gregor Jackel's head of the NRC. They're the police. Now, I had the tapes, and I listened to them very quick, long before any FOIA document. Somebody got them. I don't even know how they got them. But I had them early. And, you know, you can hear those guys talking on the phone. They were calling it 3 full court meltdowns and the 4 spent fuel pool crack. They were calling that on the day. We didn't wait for a FOIA document. I started reporting the 4 full court meltdowns day one. Day one. They were recommending the evacuation of Tokyo, which would have probably been the thing that would have happened, but the wind was blowing out. The wind was blowing out over the Pacific Ocean. The wind, I mean, that plume was gigantic. It hammered the U.S., so they're on panic mode inside the Situation Room. Gregor Jackel's told the lie. Everybody in there's told the lie. So, you can see him. He comes out. He's a brilliant young man. He has a child. He's gassed. You can see the pictures on him. He won't speak to me. He won't even talk. He's called to the hill. He takes the fifth. He just zips up. He doesn't even take the fifth. I don't know what he takes. He's supposed to be our representative, yet he won't talk. Pretty amazing. He resigns. So now he joins up with the ex-prime minister of Japan, who was pro-nuclear. Michio Kan, he says it's so great as Kaka. He says it's so great that the Japanese made the deal with the devil. They did make the deal with the devil. The devil was us. They made the deal with us. They didn't make the deal with us, the Japanese. It's not the Japanese. The Japanese have been protesting hardcore by the millions. I mean, radical, hardcore protests. There's the cover-up right there. You don't believe this is a cover-up. Think about the massive, incredible, hardcore protests going to Japan. Think about that people are being put in prison, professors. All kinds of people that are speaking out are being put in prison over there for even talking about Fukushima. Think about that. I mean, really think. The mob's running, widely reported, the mob runs the work crews. They're going in back door and busted by the hundred. They're dying. They're dying in droves. They're dying at this much quicker rate than the Chernobyl deaths were happening. Why? Logic. Let's get real. Chernobyl, one reactor that blew up. Fukushima, 4. 1, 2, and 3 in the cement fuel pools freaking were leaking from day 1 in 4. 5 and 6, removing fuel. Well, we know that the plume went up again in July of 2013. We know that factually. Out of 5 and 6, there was plume. 3 exploded again. Number 3, July. And, along the way, exploded again. Full of moxed. Now think about this. It's full of moxed fuel. What is moxed fuel? Why would Japan possibly have moxed? Moxed fuel is nuclear waste. It is nuclear waste that they enrich it and make it thousands and thousands of times stronger for nuclear weapons. Why would Japan have that? I thought that was for nuclear energy. I thought those 56 reactors. What? All 50 some odd reactors have been offline for 3 years? God, they've got to be devastated electrically. And then the Wall Street Journal comes out and says, oh, they've got to go back to dirty coal. No. They're just like Southern California. They're just like the rest of the country. The economics caught up with solar. They're all solar. Look, it's like this. You own a building in L.A., in Chicago, in New York, in Utah, especially in Japan. Somebody comes up to you and says, hey, we can save you 90% on your energy costs. How much are you paying for this building? Oh, we pay about $145,000 a year in energy costs. We can knock that down to $15,000. Really? How? We're just going to switch it to solar. You don't think they do it? Oh, they do it. And in California, the government pays for it. Oh, it's just like the negotiation came through in Utah. It was a big deal here in Utah. Why didn't it happen in Utah? It did. It did somewhat. And people are doing it. There's solar farms going on online all over in southern Utah. And remember, we live in the desert. The Great Basin is gigantic. It's all sunlight. It's all sunlight all the time. 300 sunlight days a year here, all across Nevada. Sunlight. The Mojave, it went on. California, same way. Rolling blackouts in California, San Onofre, we were told, made up 12%. I was the lead on shutting down San Onofre. That's a fact. You know, the story out of Fukushima shut down San Onofre. The lies from inside. The corruption, the fraud. Barbarossa officers, we want them in jail. She was working intensely with us. They shut her up, boy, didn't they? The nuclear cartel is powerful. They are evil. They are incredibly sick with lust and greed. You know, believe it or not, the 2020 Olympics, now think about this. Look it up. Look it up. The IOC, the International Olympic Committee, which is so corrupt. I mean, I live right here in Utah. I'm staring right now on my walk, right at the Olympic downhill. Right here. I'm standing in front of the ice sheet where a lot of the events were. It was so corrupt. They made them pay bribes. I mean, sickening, corrupt. These guys hold governments hostage. They built these incredible venues. They don't pay for one of them. Go buy a ticket to anything. I went to opening ceremonies in 2002. $1,000 a ticket. They make gargantuous sums of money off it. Why? The taxpayer builds it. They know this game to a science. They are the same exact people that are the IAEA. They're the same people. The UN, they're all the same group of people. Look it up. They're the same people. There's a cash cow from hell. We deregulated. I mean, remember it was all public utilities through the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? Public utilities. No, they deregged them, and they turned them into private. The nuclear, we have these contracts written into law. That nuclear reactors, regardless if you're using the fuel, we have to buy it back by law. They know that. You ever been in a nuclear reactor? The overhead is ridiculously low. There's nobody in there as far as the people running the show. The taxpayer builds them, the taxpayer funds them, but the thing that you don't see is uranium mines. They're the grotesque filthy. They have to have uranium. Then what they spit out, spent fuel. There's no answer for the fucking spent fuel. None. Zero. 40 years of it. Stored on site. So they built these swimming pools which these reactors were not built. Now, I went down to the New York Federal Courthouse while I was in New York City. There's a lawsuit filed against. It really could be a game changer. There's a lawsuit filed against General Electric. Why would General Electric be sued at Fukushima? Because General Electric, Westinghouse, Toshiba, they're all the same they're the IAEA taxpayer-captured cabal. Their reactors they knew were faulty. The whistleblowers had come out for 30 years. That lawsuit's going to happen. It's many, many billions of dollars. You know, just like my cancer. I'm like, come on, attorney, sue these guys. Let's go on class action. Let's go out. I can't get an attorney to do it. And it isn't about win, lose, or draw. It's about getting the facts into the public domain. Now let's talk about this. Let's talk about in detail how we got San Onofre shut down. Been working on it for a long time. We know they're lying cheaters. They have what they call rubs, which when you have shakes, the spent fuel rods and the fuel rods rub together. Very dangerous. Leaks freaking nuclear fallout into the atmosphere. And by the way, San Clemente around that reactor has huge incidence of cancer. Giant. Anybody who lives around a nuclear reactor, 16 times higher statistical probability of dying of leukemia. We know all this factually. We know that nuclear fallout factually. It's undebatable. It's undebatable. People say, the data is there. We know it from the Nevada test site. We know it from the Bikini Atolls. We know it from Chernobyl. We have all the data. The data exists. We know it from the open air test sites of the downwinders of Utah. We know it in factual detail. Yet we deny it, the American masses, because we don't have leaders that talk about it. The sheep are hypnotized. Look, you got a major populace that is pathetically stupid, pathetically ignorant. I proved it. I proved it in my PhD. I mean, ignorance thus post-ignorance. Ignorance is an epidemic. I proved it. I went around with my camera in the Tibet Revolt of 2009, 2010. I broke it down to 5 demographics. Professors, graduate students, undergraduate students, working class, and homeless. First question, what is your opinion of Congress? Right. 2,000 for 2,000. We hate them. Second question, who's your congressman or congresswoman? They didn't know. 94 people knew, and the demographic that knew the most was the home. By far. By far. Why? Because they have time to read a newspaper. They have time to read a book. They have time to freaking do some research on their own. When you're working 65 hours a week, you don't have time for shit. You're getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going to work, you're burned out, you're stressed out. Both of you working, trying to freaking keep up with, pay your mortgage on that FEMA camp you live in. Simple. I mean, there's solutions to these things. There are solutions to all of this. Very simple solutions, but we can't have those conversations. Why? Because places like Operation Foxconn control the masses. Media. The media has betrayed us. We're the media now. Why do you think don't you love Pierce Morgan takes over for Larry King? I mean, I was like, what? This guy, he murdered a young girl. You do know that about the text messaging story, as when, those media outlets were hacking into those phones and it cost that young girl her life. That was him. He was head of that he was the editor of that paper. So think about how evil, and their ratings just falling off a cliff. Why don't they care that their ratings are falling? I'll tell you why they don't care. Because over the last 30 years, they have hijacked so much wealth and hypnotized the American populace so dramatically that it doesn't even matter. Now, you can't touch their wealth. They have enough money to last thousands of years. They've hijacked so much. You can't touch their wealth. We're going to go to their house in New York City and protest. Well, they just get on their Lear jets with their private chefs and their private plane, their multiple Lear jet, and they just fly to one of their other houses all over the world. They're private security because they are the new royals. People want to talk about Illuminati? No, the power has shifted. Skull and crossbones. Oh, hell yes. The Bank of England. Oh, too big to jail. Where did we trace the money? Oh, to the Bank of England. Too big to jail. Why did they report? American masters don't care, but why don't they care? Stressed out Rex working too long. Where are the leaders? Oh, we have these great intellectual leaders. These writers. We have Noam Chomsky. We have Naomi Klein. We have Cornel West. We have dozens of them. How come they're not leading? No, because they're looking back. They knew the Fowler playing Wilson in detail. Her husband, they knew who outed her, Bob Novak. I wonder how he likes hell. They knew that it was right from the top. They knew that the ordered execution of Pat Tillman came right from the top, and it was murder. They knew all these. Yet they had the field. They're the leaders. They're the leaders. Being a leader is a heavy responsibility. John Kennedy understood that. You stand up to power. You stand up for it. That's what the word leader is. Well, these people had the platform. They had the choice. They had the choice to report this. When they had the platform, they could have moved culture dramatically. They chose not to. Now, why did they choose not to? Get their wealth. Their publicists saying, hey, you can't do this. Be railroaded. When they wouldn't have been railroaded, they would have been 10 times bigger than they ever, and history would have recorded them as these incredible literary giants. But no, they took the easy road to protect their wealth. When they could have been these iconic giant figures, and history will view them back as nothing but war profiteer propaganda horse. As far as culture goes, as far as the Iraqi war goes, as far as income inequality goes. Fukushima is a different animal. These people have no clue about Fukushima. They have no clue about freaking the environment because they've been hijacked and culturally hypnotized. The American populace is culturally hypnotized to not even understand what the environment is. Really, you think about that. The basic fundamental foundation of humanity. The air, the wind, the soil, the grass, the food. Grass, weeds. These green grasses over the last 30 years, and we just spray chemicals all over them to kill the dandelions. When it's dandelion tea that actually saves us. It's like when Vincent painted the sunflower. The tulips, the flowers were worshipped. It was a weed. It was sacrilegious. Oh, the sunflower, the only natural freaking plant on Earth that sucks radiation out of the atmosphere. Pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing how fundamentally, as a foundation, people will look right at me. Oh, you're an environmentalist. I had some hillbilly. Get this. This guy's calling him a contractor. I'm a contractor, and he's got hairspray on, slicked up. Really? You're a contractor. And let me tell you something. If you're out in the American populace, and a guy pulls up to your house to bid your stucco, your rock, your cigarette, or your building or your foundation, and he has hairspray on, you're fucked. You're fucked. They're not contractors. They're car salesmen. They're professional exploiters. They're liars because white-collar crime is not only legal, it's encouraged. To be a liar, scheming, lying, scheming is the way in this country. because we got rid of tariffs. There are no workers. The worker bee, the doers, forget that. We don't respect them, which we did for hundreds of years. We disrespect them. He tells me, oh, you environmentalists want to take my snowmobile away from me right now. I'm like, really? Why don't you take your snowmobile and stick it in your fucking ass? What are you talking about? What the fuck are you talking about? I'm talking about the air. I'm talking about nuclear radiation in the atmosphere. I'm talking about nuclear fission going on at Fukushima, Japan, for the first time in human history. Are they trying to entomb it? Of course, they're in there. Is it working? No, we know factually that it's not working. Now, remember this, the IAEA, the same people that said that the UN, the same people that just told you they reported this morning that nuclear fallout from Fukushima will not increase cancer rates. It's beyond, just like George Bush when he said, they attacked us because we love freedom and they don't like freedom. Go to Saudi Arabia, 16 of the 19 were Go there. Why is it called Saudi Arabia? Oh, the Saudi family took it over. It's Arabia. The greatest freaking empire that stood for how many years? The Saudi family took it over. Who built up the kingdom? Why? Because of their oil. This all comes down to extracting natural resources. We've extracted all the natural resources. The last bastion for natural resources was the United States. We protected our oil, save it. Now we've allowed BP to just come in here and take it all. We're fracking, we're fucking, no, there's no we, don't have a solvent well fund here. Your natural resources, 6 inches of your ground, under your house doesn't even belong to you. It's like when you go to Ireland, you go to places like that, they will look at you as an American and say, hey, how come you Americans can't own anything? What are you talking about? Property tax. Mineral rights. Who owns the mineral rights in this country? Rio Tinto. Most of them are British. The Queen, she owns all the uranium mines, the House of Windsor, the Bank of London. Oh, that's where the 9/11 money funded to? When they bought puts on the airline stocks? Huh. You don't own any of that. They're extracting it. So as the natural resources become more depleted and more depleted, the easiest way to freaking have massive wealth and to control societies. Oh, it's plutonium now. Now I get it. Oh, Obama and Putin on the phone talking to each other because we're trying to false de facto this Cold War that never ended. Really? Never ended. The New World Order is the old world order. Let's think about this. Honestly, think about this. They're on the same team. Yeah, they're fighting over contracts. Hillary Clinton goes to the president of Czechoslovakia. Look it up. Her last duty is Secretary of State. Now you think about this. This is the highest ranking public official in the United States besides the president. Well, probably, incredible power. Incredible power. Maybe Harry Reid, the majority. It's debatable with the Secretary of State or, the Senate majority leader. But the Senate majority leader, we know what's happened with Congress. They're at gridlock because they're hypnotized through Operation Foxconn. They want to talk about, we got a missing plane. Can you imagine if there was a missing plane? This would have been even 20, 30 years ago. Wouldn't even been reported. You would have you wouldn't even found it on the 10th page of the New York Times. Now, what was on the 12th page of the New York Times? Oh, Megan Rice, the 84-year-old nun, the protege of Martin Luther King, put in prison, sentence, made the 12th page. It's the media. Again, the leaders. They're on the same team. She uses the word Westinghouse over and over and over, Hillary does. Over and over and over. Threatens the president. You pull the contract with the Russians because these are plutonium wars. Because to own a nuclear reactor has nothing to do with nuclear energy. Nothing. We don't use it. It's so grotesquely outdated. It was a fallacy. We got fed a bill of goods that it's magic, and it's not magic. No answer for the nuclear waste. Old, worn-out reactors. The most dangerous thing. Just think about the real estate taken out of the equation forever. Chernobyl. You know how big that freaking swath across the Belarus and Ukraine are uninhabitable forever? It's gigantic. The radiation's still leaking all over people. We're going to entomb it. Yeah, they entombed it. We're going to put such sockets around it. Oh, they want, bro, fuck that. Just like the nuclear reactors. We extorted wealth forever. We just piled up nuclear waste in them, all 104 of them all across the night. We shoved it in every nook and cranny. We secretly snuck it into WIP and Carl the Bad. We've got it all over. But we're not going to fix shit. We're just going to leave it fucking laying there. That's what they do. There's no fucking answer for the waste. None. Zero. Shoot it into space. That's the answer. I used to argue with Alison McFarland, who took Gregory Jackal's God. Now you think about Gregory Jackal teaming up with the former Prime Minister of Japan, who was pro-nuclear, who's hardcore anti-nuclear now. Boy, did they shut those fucking guys up, huh? Anybody could, Barbara Boxer, who went after the NRC, Alison McFarland, who was placed there to replace Gregory Jackal, give to Harry Reid again, because she wrote a book. She wrote multiple books. Very good books, by the way. Saying there's an ancient aquifer under Yucca Mountain. She's probably right. I used to argue with her. I've known her for years. I used to argue with the whole thesis. I used to say, put it in Yucca Mountain, and then decide what to do. Get it off all these different fault lines. Get it out of there. Get it all. It's too dangerous. She used to say, shoot it in space. Now they say dry cast it. Just leave it, dry cast. We know for a fact dry cast doesn't work. Let's just leave it there. It's ticking time bomb. But, as Megan Rice broke into Y-12, what's Y-12? Oak Ridge, Tennessee, the Manhattan Project, which still never quit. It never stopped. Reagan and Gorbachev signed a non-proliferation contract to, by law, internet signed into law, to get rid of them. We not only do not get rid of them, we make more. So Megan Rice, an 84-year-old nun, could have took on anything she wanted, broke into Y-12. Most heavily secured place on the face of the earth, we are told. We spend billions in taxpayers' money to secure it. 84-year-old nun, in the middle of the day, right through the chain that makes it all the way into Y-12, right where it's all at. She's there for hours. She's charged. This is a protege of Pete Seeger. Peace, peace, peace. Martin Luther King. Peace, we must love our enemies. I mean, that's her. That's her. One of the greatest peace activists of all time. She's a pastor. She's charged as a terrorist. Little Timothy in the courtroom calls her disingenuous, the most genuine person in the world right now. She's been in prison for a long time. I was in the prison a week ago. Did my show exactly a day live from the prison. Who would have thunk it? I mean, here I'm staying a block away, and we don't know where she's at, and then boom, all of a sudden I get an email, oh, she's right by where you're at, Kevin. You're in Brooklyn, right? Yeah. I'll walk on over there. It's pretty amazing. So we have all these incredible stories right in our face. Aaron Swartz. The death of Aaron Swartz. They're going to put him in prison for 35 years for supposedly somebody broke into MIT. Alison McFarland, MIT. Ernest Moxie Fuel, head of the department at MIT. You know, I go off on, you look at that video I do, what is the statistical probability of a nuclear meltdown in the United States? I do that shortly right after, in the classroom. After 3/11. 13 universities. All across the home. MIT, Harvard, Yale. That's where the power is being wielded. And their philosophy is power of the phonics. There's no moderation justice with this. This is all about extracting natural resources and controlling populations by threatening them with nuclear weapons. Look, you're another country, say Iran. Now, think about this. It gets exposed. Now, remember, there were bombs put on young, brilliant scientists in Iran. And they were blown, their cars were blown up. And when we kill these people with drone strikes and whatever, we kill their kids, their wives, their whole family. Think about Saddam, Saddam never did anything to any American, which we propped him up and built him up. And we demonized his two fucked up sons. Okay, we're going to kill his two sons. Their sons, Saddam's grandsons, were with them. Whole families. Their entire families. Children. We went in there with total disregard, and we killed their kids. Who does that? We're baby fucking murderers. That's who we are. Now think about Iran. Why does Iran hate, it's a fact. The CIA fucking murdered their elected president to prop up the Shah. That's a fucking fact. Anybody who's fucking got, well, I shouldn't say anybody, academia used to teach these things. To get a degree in academia meant something at one time when you had real professors who led the field. They're not real professors now. The last great real professors like Cornell have drank in the Kool-Aid and joined teams with Bill Maher's celebrityism has got them. Popism got amok. There's no professors. There's no leaders. There's no leaders in academia. There's no leaders in spirituality. There's politics. I'll tell you who leaders are. The IEA, the people of the UN who came out. And who do they lead? They lead you right off a cliff. They lead you to your grave. They make you believe in ridiculous. And you read a headline, and that's your mantra forever. Was it Barnum or Bailey who said it? No one ever went broke in the United States, for overestimating the intelligence level of the American populace. Well, but we always had leaders. We had leaders that stood up, some spiritual leaders, academia leaders, professors. We had, activists. We don't have those. I mean, I'm out in the street. I'm leading. Yeah, I have a small little post-ignorance army, but we're growing and we're getting stronger every day. And we're not like Occupy, but we are like Occupy. We have the energy, but the arrogance of America is this. Anybody who stands up and tries to lead, because they don't have answers. They don't have just because they're working 65 hours a week, chasing their tail. They fall for popism. They don't know shit. They don't know anything historically, economically, philosophically. What leaders are for. Leaderless. There's never been any single movement in the history of mankind, ever, that advanced society and changed society that was leaderless. Now, we've had 1% so-called Illuminati. Don't you love it? Illuminati. It's been from the bloodline. So you mean to tell me all these CEOs who grassrooted up, who became celebrities and powers? No, it's not Illuminati. I guess the word Illuminati has been hijacked from what it really truly is. Wealth versus via bloodlines has always been a philosophy in the history of mankind. Who was the one guy that I really, really recall who stood up to that? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, boy, did he stand up. And look how we've hijacked him in this country. How many Jesuses do they indoctrinate. You just get in bed with your own doctrine and preach from the pulpit because you're ignorant and stupid. Now, when I say ignorant and stupid, I'm not talking about you who are listening to this. I'm talking about the American aggregate, the populace at large. As I told somebody, hey, run along and go get a cookie. This channel, this radio show, this movement is for the big kids. Not just in the intellectuals. No. The workers, the hard doers, the thinkers. Yeah, it has to all go hand in hand. We have to be in the street. We have to be on keyboard activists. We have to work hard at this. Now, everyone doesn't have to do that. Of course not. Activism and leadership is not something you choose. It chooses you. Now, me getting cancer 200 days post-Fukushima, me being head of the atomic veterans, me being an anti-nuclear, me being a social movement activist, a professor, a plaster, a historian, an arbitrage derivative specialist who quit, standing on moral ground. For me to deny and live through, I'm alive. Given 2 months to live. I've got the type of disease, there's no way I should have lived. Because all my friends died, and I look back, and these assholes come out and say that it won't increase cancer rates when they, right out of their own mouths, said before that it will increase cancer rates. It's propaganda, and the American populace will feed on it because they read a headline. That's how people get their news. We blame CNN. They're fucking hideous. Fox, fucking NBC, MSNBC. They're grotesque. Video killed the media star. But still, you Google in, get a headline, and you run with it. Come on. People say we need literature to change it, only change around the edges. Well, YouTube is an incredible, powerful genre, the most incredible genre in human history. To think you can put out information instantaneously, immediately, and anybody around the world can view it. Visually. Hear it. Immediately. It is the most underutilized in a leadership fashion in human history. Now, contemporized, as entertainment goes, because we've taken the thing that television is entertainment, and YouTube is somehow television. YouTube's not television. YouTube's interactive. Now, is it sad that they named it YouTube? Is it sad that Google got it? I don't know. I've always had hope in Google because those two Russian boys, they know the freaking mayhem of Chernobyl. They know that Putin is the new czar and hijacked. They know that. Now, you think that their wealth became Illuminati via bloodlines? Hell no. Right place, right time? Yep. Are they the new powers there be? Yep. And what happens to when you become so super grotesquely wealthy? Females come at you out of the woodwork sexually. People just bow to you and worship you. It's like a drug. These are human beings, and it changes them. They become, I don't know, I mean, we're human. We're human. We're flawed creatures. But we as leaders, I mean, you think about John Kennedy, an oligarch. One of the richest men in the fucking country at the time. His family. I have hope, and I'll tell you why I have hope. A lot of hope this month. This is the month that's going to break the back or make it. If we don't get something to happen this month, in the next 60 days, it's Chernobyl all over again. And people will just die in droves. And the propaganda machine of the UN, which we know factually, they spent $4 billion in the 80s on the propaganda machine, and it worked through media. They're doing it again right now. President Obama is going to Japan the 22nd. You can see that he is totally 100% captured by the nuclear cartel. They propped him up, Axelrod, Exelon. But remember this, Exelon made a statement and come out and says they are going to back out of nuclear. That's the biggest player in the United States. They made that statement in the conference call. I'm very good at reading between the lines. I was an arbitrage derivative specialist. That's what we do. We have to read between the lines in these statements to hypothesize things forward. Here's what I see. Caroline Kennedy is the ambassador to Japan. Now think about it. Caroline Kennedy, now, Democracy Now!, she and her are friends. They know each other. Look what Democracy Now! Has been doing of late. She actually went over there and reported. You can't get away with that. They're putting people in jail. I got to give it to her. I mean, I really got to give it to her. And I know she's friends with Caroline Kennedy. I know those people. I mean, I have contacts that know them, that through them, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, my connections in New York City. If anybody's going to break ranks and stand up to power, it will be Caroline Kennedy. Her entire family's always done it. I mean, it's their way. It's cost them all of their lives. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind, absolutely 100%, no doubt more than anything in my mind, that John Kennedy Jr. would be what Barack Obama is right now. He would be president. He would have been the Barack Obama, and he would have been the president. Would the country have been better off? A billion times better off. Because you could see he was an independent man. You know, and his death, oh my God, I mean, it's just like this chain that we cannot break. Obama's going to stand in Tokyo, and I'll tell you why, and he's going to grandstand for the nuclear cartel because the election's coming up, and they have elections over and over, and we know the elections in Japan are always corrupt. You know, they're corrupt. You can't even believe in anything. They don't have open democracy. They're occupied still by the nuclear cartel after Japan is, Taka says it perfectly, they made the deal with the devil. Who's the devil? Us, the United States. The powers that, well, not us. The military-industrialized complex. We're not a flag. We're not borders. Cancer knows no borders. Cancer knows no boundaries. Cancer knows no state lines. Cancer knows no, you know, demographic. The jet stream. We're around. We are weak. He's going to propagate, and they're protesting by they're 95% of Japanese are anti-nuclear hardcore. We don't see that. The powers there be, which have nothing to do with Japan. The IAEA, the nuclear cartel. Barack Obama has become their puppet. He will stand there, Barry Antoinette, let them eat yellow cake, as he said in his press conference after Fukushima, as he knew it was hammering down. Gene McCarthy was head of RadNet, and they crashed RadNet, took away, manipulated all the numbers in factual detail. That's undebatable. Now she's head of the EPA. He's going to stand there and propagate to restart the nuclear generator and to restart, not because of Japan, because of the cartel internationally. Pakistan, Afghanistan, China, India. They understand what wealth they can extract from those countries via uranium mining, via power. They can point those nuclear weapons at people and make secret nuclear weapon plants all over Pakistan and China, and they won't even know they're there, just like they did. You don't think the Japanese royal family, the Chinese royal family, the Russian royal family, Putin the new czar, the American royal family are all on the same team? New World Order? No, it's Old World Order. Because we have no Hamiltons to fight back. We have no Abraham Lincolns to fight back. We have no John Kennedys to fight back. Stand up to power is hard. It costs people their lives. Martin Luther King, all of them. To serve power, it cost them their lives. Aaron Swartz, Michael Hastings. It cost them all their lives. You know, they're on the same team. He's going to stand there and he's going to grandstand the nuclear cartel. I'm hoping that Caroline breaks ranks and says, oh no, Oh no, her father was the most hardcore anti-nuclear ever. Martin Luther King, all those powers there be that stood up to the nuclear cartel, Edward Teller, the great Hungarian evil creepy who made the conscious decision out of Cal Berkeley to murder my father. They consciously knew that they were going to murder those atomic veterans in the Valley of Tesla and murder their children. They did it anyway. Oppenheimer is the greatest Lee Harvey Oswald in history. He didn't want to drop the bomb on Japan. He wanted to drop a scare bomb. It was Teller, the Middle Eastern complex. It was the Eugene McCarthy's of the time. Oh, he's a commie now because what? His wife fled the Franco regime? Come on. Dive into the Spanish thesis over there. How evil was that? What was going on? I got an argument with a young guy the other day, and he says, well, what about the concentration camps here? They're all Italians. I thought what? What? The Italians where fascism was born. They fought on the side of Hitler. So did a lot of Sweden. So did Japan. It's amazing stories how people can just, I guess they're working too hard. Some of these people aren't dumb people. They're just ignorant people. Big difference. Haven't had time. It's hard to educate yourself in this crazy 10-second soundbite world when you're trying to make ends meet, working 65 hours a week. The answer is tariffs, usury laws, the enforcement of antitrust, all these things that stood up to power. We don't stand to power. Hopefully Caroline will stand to power. I have hope. 50 years from that iconic anniversary where she's standing with freaking, at her father's funeral, her and her brother. Those heartbreaking, some of the most iconic pictures, photographs in American history. Exactly 50 years to the day she was in Fukushima. The word I get, she was gassed. Now we know Bobby Jr., which I used to argue with, but I've taken back everything I've said about him because he stood up to Pandora's problem. He gets it. That the answer to dirty coal is nuclear that's like comparing arsenic to cyanide. The answer is solar, and we're not having this debate in 1973. It's already happened. That's what's crazy about this. The madness that's already happened. All of the Western grid, we're all fueled by solar. We don't use this shit. You could shut down all these nuclear reactors and I wouldn't make one iota. There would be no rolling blackouts. Solar really is too cheap to meter. Not nuclear. Nuclear is about weapons. Nuclear is an industry. The subsidy is, you take every other subsidy in the United States. Price Anderson. How come we can't overturn that? Because we have a hijacked Supreme Court. Lito Roberts shouldn't be there, and that's not documentary. That's not commentary. These are captured. And think about this. The people that are supposed to defend us, Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, all these people are supposed to defend us. Now think about this. They're going to go after social inequality as the 90% when they are the 1%. How rich all those guys are? The war profiteers? I'm not talking about Fukushima. I'm talking about social inequality. I'm talking about the wars. I'm talking about 9/11 when these guys all had the chance. They had the chance to expose the truth that they bought puts on the airline stocks, and we knew who they went to. We knew after day 3. I was an early arbitrage specialist when it happened. Not the lead up. I'm not talking about the lead up, the conspiratorial nature to the lead up. I'm talking about posts. Noam Chomsky can say that number 7 wasn't blown. Now, we can talk about why was it blown. Was it command center? And New York City have a lot of buildings wired because they don't want it just to spread through? Maybe. I don't know. But him to deny Valerie Plame Wilson? Now, if you run into Valerie Plame Wilson before she was out as a CIA agent, and you tell me the smartest of the smart, would you ever believe she was a CIA agent? I wouldn't have. I would have never believed it. Somebody told you you're crazy. They out her? Stand tuned. We got to fight back. Don't give up. San Francisco, next stop. I'll put details on my YouTube channel.
All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. All nuclear fighters, all hands on deck, all hands on deck, all hands on deck. They'll be calling you a radical.